Hello. Asia has 51 countries, and I'm supposed to do this in 10 minutes. It's a challenge. um, as there's a close relationship between the countries of North Asia, and I think the design initiatives are quite well known within this region, I will perhaps concentrate on Southeast Asia and India. Okay. Starting with Indonesia. The city of Bandung, which is 2 hours from Jakarta, has been designated a creative city some years back, and it is the focus of many design movements in Indonesia. And recently in October, an architect, Ridwan Kamil, has been elected the mayor of Bandung, and this has raised the level of design activities tremendously, like design acupuncture to solve urban problems, starting with the study of Bandung's transportation problems. And the results of this workshop to be formulated as recommendations, which hopefully will be realized in the near future by the government. So there's a lot of meaningful design activities happening in Indonesia. Like, for example, there are many grassroots movements like Kampung Creative. Kampung is village creative. It is really capacity building, bringing together designers, village, communities, government, and also there is another initiative called Open Source Design, where professional designers contribute ideas and templates, packaging, design process, branding, etc., to help SMEs and village communities. And I think there is now, they're going to select 5 villages in Indonesia to execute this program, and each of them specialize in certain crafts like bamboo, weaving, textiles, and so on. Moving on to Malaysia, like Thailand, Malaysia is currently very deeply divided by politics. And there are 2 sides of the story. One, the one you read in the papers, there's widespread corruption, racism, rising crime, etc. But within this very difficult situation, there is a real movement, especially among the urban young, to really come together and try to make some sense of this situation. And Malaysia has a very serious talent problem. There is a serious brain drain. About 350,000 migrated within 18 months. People just packed up and left the country. And this continued to this day. And they are mostly Chinese, highly skilled and talented. In fact, some of our best creative people are now working in Singapore and in China. But I realized that there is a growing awareness and desire to go back to our roots, to find out who we are. We find that in terms of the arts and design, there is a magnificent output of very, very creative and innovative ideas. A lot of them are now seeking back the origins of who we are. Since Malaysia held the Ecograda Design Week in Sarawak last year, the design scene has never been so active before. In September, REGA, which is the Graphic Design Association of Malaysia, launched the Code of Professional Conduct for Graphic Designers with the Malaysian Design Council and David Berman. His book was also translated into the local language, Malay. And basically, following the example of Canada, we hope that Malaysia, with the help of the Malaysian Design Council, will introduce certification for graphic designers, basically to help companies to recognize who are the bona fide designers and who are those whose business cards says they are consultants, but they don't really have the experience. Okay, there is a lot of grassroots movements for a better Malaysia, and it's gaining momentum, like Better KL, a loose grouping of architects and designers to encourage citizens to think about the role in helping to improve the city. But it's actually a cat and mouse game, because the public installations, and these are messages which are pasted on the bus stops in the city. They are actually taken down by City Hall officers as soon as they come out, but they are actually very, very persistent. You can see, are you happy with your bus service? Yes and no. And this is a very, very interesting new development in Malaysia. Singapore design success is well documented globally, so I need not add more. I believe Design Singapore is here. To me, I see, and to a lot of people in the region see Singapore as the leader in the skyrise greening movement, which is the deliberate approach of actively reinstating greenery to replace natural spaces that have been lost during urbanization. And this, I think, is something we can really learn from this tiny state, which is doing tremendous work. Philippines actually, in May of this year, they have actually signed into law the Philippine Design Competitive Act of 2013, a very, very major step for Philippines. And the bill also allows the creation of the Design Center of the Philippines and forms the Design Advisory Council and creates a national design policy. This is a very major step for Philippines, which in terms of the creative industry has been led always by advertising agencies and by the internet media. Okay. Since 2011, Design Week Philippines has been officially established by the Philippine government. They're concentrating on product design, especially furniture, crafts. And there is also a private initiative called Grafica Manila, which has been successfully running these design talks and conferences. So I think Philippines is just beginning to really to wake up, especially in terms of support by the government and support by various organizations, as well as commercial support. And I think we're going to see something exciting really coming up from the Philippines. And this is the first time where in the school, social design has been introduced this year. In terms of the Mekong countries, which is Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, Myanmar, and Yunnan, I think we're going to see a lot of very exciting activities along the Mekong. I think over the next 10 to 20 years, I think this area will really come up and boom. India is so huge. There are so many exciting design initiatives. I've just cherry-picked some. I probably will miss out some important initiatives as well. Generation D is initiated by ADI, which is the Association of Designers of India. They now have 4 chapters in Pune, Mumbai, Delhi, and Bangalore. It is basically professional designers who volunteer the time to go to schools and colleges. And we are not talking about design colleges. These are the normal educational institutions to kind of increase awareness of design and the value of design among school leavers. And even if these people don't actually go into the design profession, they enter into businesses, they have at least a sense of the power of design. The India Design Mark, India has signed a MOU with Japan, and there's a good collaboration with Good Design Mark of Japan. In fact, they have actually sponsored a lot of Indian professors to Japan to discuss and exchange ideas on how to determine what is good design. There has also been very many festivals in India. The Pune Design Festival is, I think, started in 2006, and now it's the 7th edition. There is also the Design Yatra conference, which is very important and influential. There have been a lot of private initiatives. Curious magazine is published by Antalis, the paper merchant, very influential. There is another design magazine by Indie, also has been promoting local designers and local ideas. And there have been also a lot of private joint ventures with overseas organizations. I believe that the India Design Council just signed a MOU with UK Design Council the last couple of weeks. And there's also joint venture initiatives with the British Council, Dutch BNO, Dutch Design Council, and we're going to see this growing quite a bit. Just to conclude, Asia-wide, I represent, of course, the Design Alliance, and we have completed an Asian-wide research project, which is called Colors of Asia, covering 13 countries and regions. And this is a collaboration with Hong Kong Design Institute and supported by Create Hong Kong, and as well as collaboration with several museums, educational institutions, and cultural institutions in Asia. So Colors of Asia culminated in an exhibition at Hong Kong Design Institute. There's students' workshop, forum, seminar, publication, research paper. And the idea of this initiative is really to research on one aspect of Asian culture every 2 or 3 years. And well, hopefully we can take the exhibition to the rest of Asia and Europe. And we hope to start our next area of research on foods of Asia and hoping for your collaboration. And that's all for Asia. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you to the Hong Kong Federation of Design Association and Hong Kong Design Centre. I think this is a wonderful event, and I'm sure whilst all this information could be found on the internet, there's nothing like being face-to-face with people and sharing. So it's wonderful. Thank you for keeping this up. So I guess just to give you a quick overview of what we're doing down under in Australia, I guess the Design Institute of Australia, we are a professional body that represents all design disciplines from interior design, industrial design, graphic design and so forth, even fashion designers and some architects. We have over 3,000 members in Australia. The interesting thing, if you don't know too much about the geography of Australia, we have our head office based in Melbourne, which is where I come from, and then there are 5 other offices scattered around. Australia has a landmass almost equivalent to the United States, but unlike the United States, we only have 22 million people, and most of them probably live on the east coast, on the right-hand side there. The challenge for us as an organisation, whilst we may be only one country, is probably similar to Asia or Europe, as in we've got a lot of territory to cover. But that's, again, what we do. We try and get together as often as we can. I guess before I get into the detail, I was asked to talk about one particular project. I perhaps wanted to give you a taste of what's happening in Australia in terms of design, very similar to other presentations I've been watching through the BODW. In Australia, I guess like many countries, manufacturing is diminishing. It's been in decline, and obviously there's companies that are closing down, people losing jobs because their operations are coming offshore. However, having said that, there have been some great success stories. This one recently, in fact, this photo was only taken 2 weeks ago now. This is a new tram, and if you're familiar, Melbourne has a tram network, very similar to some other European cities. This tram was actually designed by one of our members, who's an industrial designer, Cobalt Niche. As a result of this project and a collaboration with a North American-based company called Bombardier, this tram has generated a project to the value of approximately $300 million, and it was built locally in Victoria. So again, a great example of great design being kept local when we can. Another similar one on a much grander scale is this new children's hospital. You can't see the images there, just as I have. Maybe you'd like to move around. This is a wonderful project, and the reason I wanted to share it with you is that as an architectural project, obviously hospitals are very difficult places. They tend to focus more on the process of healing through technology. This was designed by an Australian architect a firm called Bates Smart. The identity was by a graphic designer, Richard Henderson. The wayfinding by another company called Bureau North, implemented by my business called Diadem. A collection of great collaboration, but this is an example of a hospital where, through design, we've been able to achieve a more humanised space. And obviously, being a children's hospital, the idea of fun has been woven right through this. And you may not see this photo down in the bottom left here, but in this hospital there is a meerkat enclosure. And when we talk about collaborations amongst professionals, this was taken one step further. The Melbourne Zoo is actually located only a few minutes away from this hospital, so they decided what better way to actually distract the children whilst they're being treated than to actually have live meerkats as well as an aquarium. So successful was this plan that in fact for the first 6 months of the hospital being opened, visitors were actually coming just to see the attractions. So interesting where design can take you. So, Design Institute and our key objectives, I guess like many of the associations, obviously we're trying to foster alliances nationally and internationally. Design education, we're looking at trying to recognise courses so that we can maintain high standards. We're in 2014 plan to launch Designed Australia program, which I'll show you very quickly in a moment. Professional recognition and awards is part of, again, an ongoing strategy of trying to engage with professional designers. Many of them are happy just to pay their membership fee and you never see them all year round, so it's an issue of trying to engage with them. And of course the last one, which everybody, I guess we're very focused on and other associations, is again engaging with government and trying to develop a design policy similar to those that exist in the UK and other European countries. So if I very quickly take you through the national and international alliances. In Australia, DIA is a founding partner of what's called the Australian Design Alliance, which is the ADA. The goal is to promote government use of design. So really it's not just about awareness, but perhaps in a parallel way to incubators is actually working with the government to understand that this is where innovation is coming from. The other thing is that New Zealand, the little country off to our right, we've basically just signed an MOU with them because similarly with a small country and a population of 4 million, a very concentrated but dispersed sort of population of designers, we're now working together. So with this MOU we're able to do things across the ditch, which is the Tasman Ocean. Obviously, we're very proud of the fact that we have key people in some of the international organisations. So again, one of the issues for us is that because Australia is so remote from the rest of the world, sometimes we think nobody else knows we exist. So maybe that makes us try harder, which is a great thing. So as you can see with the IFI, Joanne Seiss, who was a former president of the Design Institute, is now a director. Ika Grada now has our Peter Florensos as a treasurer, which is a worry because he's a graphic designer. That's a joke between me and him, no offence for any graphic designers in the room. And for ICSID, the newly appointed Brandon Guillen as president. So that's a fantastic representation for us. As I mentioned, with the New Zealand Institute of Design, we've got lots of collaborations that we're now starting, sharing speakers. But one of the things that they do very well, which probably is in parallel to a Business of Design Week, is what they do with Better by Design. And that effectively is aimed at CEOs. They bring together 400 CEOs from all over the world, particularly obviously New Zealand and Australia. And last year they had Tim Brown from IDEO talking. And the premise of this is not to talk about design, it's actually to talk about how to engage with designers. So effectively, as a CEO, if you have a problem or you're trying to better improve your business, how do you actually go about that? So it's actually almost a mentoring program for CEOs, which is quite innovative in itself. Designed Australia. Again, many countries have got a similar system, I suppose, but for us, twofold. I guess number one, we want to raise the profile of products that are designed in Australia, not necessarily manufactured in Australia, such as that tram's probably a great example. The issue also overseas is that a lot of people aren't aware of products that are perhaps designed by Australian designers. And one great example that comes to mind, a very simple product, but there's a company in Victoria, in Melbourne, called Chematic, and they design sport stadium seating. And since the 1996 Olympics, I think it was, in Atlanta, they were successful in the tendering of the design and then the procurement of all of the seating. And since those Olympic Games, every significant game since then, this little company in Melbourne has been designing and supplying seating to the world. So you could imagine hundreds and thousands of seats to all of those stadiums, including Athens and Beijing recently. But again, most people wouldn't know that that product came from there. So again, this is a great opportunity to try and raise the profile, and I suppose the iconic boomerang might be one way of achieving that symbol. As I mentioned, in terms of awards and recognitions, there's a number of ways we've been trying to engage with members and also support. And it's looking at the longevity of someone from when they're in education all the way through to when they're actually ready to retire. Because our membership base is very, very broad. We've also found that engaging with educators has become quite key to a lot of our initiatives. So starting with this one as an example, the Graduate of the Year Award, which is run nationally. We run one in each state, and then there's an overall Australian award program. This is a great opportunity where universities can put forward their own graduates, and then through bringing professionals to make judgment, we obviously nominate people in each discipline as winners. It creates an opportunity to benchmark. So universities then are starting to understand, and professional designers who are brought in to judge, there's a nice fusion happening, because essentially the professionals are feeling like they're starting to have an influence on what's coming out of the universities by selecting the winners. Universities are feeling like they're connected with industry. And one of the nice byproducts of this, it's almost an employment selection process, because usually the judges snap up the best winners as well. As I mentioned then, at the other end of the spectrum, this year we have what we call the Hall of Fame, and essentially this is to induct people who have had a lifetime of significant achievement in design. So some of the people that here you may know, Jenny Key, who's a very well-known fashion designer from Sydney, and Ken Doan, who made his name in the 80s as a graphic designer that was then applied to print, and his prints still sell today. 1 minute, I'm onto it. The key thing that we're focusing on now, and I guess the project as an association that we really have most interest in, is trying to create a course recognition program. So as I said before, what we're finding is that working with education is really probably the keystone to being able to select graduates, be able to maintain levels of quality in the courses, and also enables us to bring professionals to sit on those particular panels. So some of the things that we're trying to do through that process, if you like, is number one, engaging with the universities that become members of the DIA as educational members. I'm not sure if any other association does that, but so rather than just having a membership that's specific to designers, we have universities that join as education members. It also means that we bring together a lot of the design educators that normally wouldn't necessarily come into the same space. So it's a little bit like being a neutral territory for them to share their issues. The course recognition then is based on sort of a structural platform that the government has in place. So for us, it's about recognising degrees, diplomas and associate diplomas of certain level. Obviously, when new programs or design programs are brought about, we'd like to at least be involved in vetting them. In doing that, once again, we're able to bring industry to be on panels for universities to, again, help steer them. And all of this is really about relevance. One of the challenges, I guess, when you're in industry and an employer is when you have a highly academic person that comes to your office who really can't be put to work. That's about relevance, and I think it's always a challenge in every world when there's sort of a utopia of design versus the commercial reality of being able to have a team of people who can actually work effectively. So in doing all of this, we'd be able to obviously continue that engagement with the universities and industry, but more importantly, make recommendations to prospective students as well. So very quickly in closing, hopefully on time, I guess the essence of our strategy at the moment in Australia is that really as an association, as the voice of professional design, is really to be building strength and authority from being able to balance all of these relationships, because if we do that, then as an association we're going to be relevant, and if we're relevant, then hopefully people will listen to us. Thank you.
So thank you, Dominic. So thank you, Freeman, for invitation to give a short speech about Europe. I just got the information a few days ago, and I'm sorry, but I couldn't work it out really properly. So I just give you a brief introduction, and I hope my colleagues from Sweden and from Belgium, of course, can add their comments. There are not too many others from Europe, I think, or did I forget somebody? No. Well, Europe, I don't know if you know the name Europe, comes from the Greek mythology, and it means a woman with a broad view or with a good overview. And if we have a look at the map, we can see Europe, of course, is part of a bigger continent, and you can also have a perspective to call it an Eurasian continent. But in some ways, if we have a look at the figures, you see more than 50 countries are included in Europe. That's a lot. And of course, today I cannot go into the details of every country. That's not possible. And of course, Europe has such a lot of culture and design activities, I cannot describe them all. 65 inhabitants per square meter compared with Asia. There are, I read it, 90 inhabitants per square meter, so it's a little bit less. If we have a look at some metropoles and compare it with Asia, these are cities in between 1.5 and let's say 7 million people living there. The biggest ones are Moscow, London, of course, Madrid, Berlin, Rome, Paris, Istanbul, but not comparable to the big cities in China, for example. If we have a look at European design activities, there are, of course, also some countries putting a lot of effort in it. I will talk about it a little bit later, more in detail. And if you have a look at the structure, Europe is really divided into smaller sections, into smaller regions. Germany is somewhere in the middle. So if we scale it a little bit more, and to give you an example of Germany, also Germany is a real federal state separated in different regions. And here I just show you my region. The region I'm responsible for is Bavaria, southern part of Germany, with Munich as a capital. But at the same time, a lot of strong companies are related to design here. You may know some of them from automotive industries, from sports like Adidas and Puma, and also Siemens are well known also in Asia. They have their headquarters there. Then I would like to mention something which is very characteristic for Europe is a tension between tradition, history, also a balance between work and life, and high-tech industries. Here I can show you some pictures from Bavaria, of course. Everybody knows the Oktoberfest. We have a beautiful scenery of the Alps in the background of Munich. So it is really a tension between traditional elements and future-orientated elements. At the same time, you know that especially Europe has a quite strong design history. Our Design Promotion Institutes started in 1950 to promote design in Germany, for example. This is a long time, I would say, and a lot of people thought about the 2000 that it's no longer necessary to support design activities because all the companies know now, but that was wrong. Today, I think the situation changed. We already heard some things from you, from your lecture about the change we have to face today in technology, and there are a lot of new challenges behind. Before, design really was a symbol of modernity, and of course it follows function and it's manufactured industrially. Today, the situation changed. Creativity at all becomes the business sector. We see it from the figures. Design strengthened economic developments from an intercultural perspective, of course. It has a region, a local and a global aspect. It's a key driver of the sustainable development of our environment, I'm convinced of. And design is, of course, fundamental to innovation. That's why my institute, for example, is part of the Ministry of Economics in Germany. And there is a Department of Innovation. That design and creativity are fundamental to innovation is something I think all design institutions in Europe are behind that. Creative firms, they are active innovators. And we really have to care about this aspect, because it means that just to invent a new shape or to think about the beauty of a product is not enough. This includes much more competences and much more things to care about. So just to give you some more figures, the creative industries, they are divided in Germany into different branches like arts, architecture, design, software, games, advertising, journalism, and so on, movie. And the yellow column, this is design, so it's quite strong column in Germany. And of course, everybody knows a lot of different branches are behind, and they are a kind of interface to most of the companies. If you have a look at the top 25 regions for creative and culture industries employment clusters, this is from 2006, but I couldn't get a newer one. You see that France, of course, with Paris, London, they are on the top, but also Munich is number 9. Now it's up to number 7 work employment clusters of creative people. And here you see another map where you can see where these creative regions are concentrating. The more greener ones are it's the most concentration. And well, of course, all these different regions, they are, in a way, they are quite small, and that's why in Europe we really care about how to combine forces and to collaborate more in a European perspective. That's why we have European funds, also for creative industries, and we have organizations like BIDA, for example, which is responsible for which covers design institutes, corporate and corporates. Give you some examples. Here you can see who is in BIDA. It's Barcelona Design Center, Belgrade Design Week, Cité du Dessin France, Czech Trade, Dance Design Center. A lot of institutions are combined in this association. And we meet 2 times a year to discuss design policies and, of course, to discover projects we can do together. There you can see where these institutes are located. We have more than 45, up to 50 which are in BIDA now. But these are not all you can find in Europe. If we have a look at the map of design weeks, it's an interesting phenomenon, I would say. I'm always astonished that such a lot of design weeks work, and they are not in a competition because they are important for the different sites. And well, you know some of them, of course, Milan and London Design Week, 100% London, Copenhagen Design Week, Belgrade Design Week. Most of all of these countries have a small or bigger size design week. Also Munich has one from 2011. So this is something which shows us it's important to continue talking about design and discuss with companies, most of all with the small and medium-sized companies, the importance of design. So I think I should finish now, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, members. Actually, this is really a new chapter for Global Design Network. As I say, the Hong Kong government decided to support us in the much better way, so to speak. So anyway, so that's why we have the funding to start this calendar. And also we expand the discussion from lunch to open forum and then to this closed door section. So this year is a new chapter, and then maybe the time allow for closed door discussion, not that much. So I think we have to be more kind of concise. But one thing is very important is I have to state that this is still a very loose organization. What we want to do with GDN is to each year to invite members to come, to share, and then to exchange, to understand Asia and also let Asia understand the rest of the world. So from the members, you can see down below, here, a long list of membership. There is a lot of institutions from China, actually. And from the discussion that just took place here, that actually from what Decker has said, there is 1,000 creative cluster in China. What it means is actually there is how many designers are doing, how many designers are in, doing their jobs in China. And then I heard that there was 1.5 million design students in China. So think of how many graduates each year. So that is quite interesting. So and then the scale, of course, is very scary sometimes. So but the competition or the scenario is not as different as maybe as the other speaker has said, because even in Shanghai city, it divided into different districts, and each district is competing with another district. So actually, each district, you can treat it as like a small region or more small city in Europe. So it's quite different from Europe. So Hong Kong is different. To Hong Kong is actually is a whole. Hong Kong Design Center don't need to compete with another Kowloon Design Center. So there's no Kowloon Design Center. It's only Hong Kong Design Center. So that's better. So, but in Shanghai, that's very funny. I'm sorry to say that. But there's all in the beginning. That's so confusing for us. There's a different names, different types of design center happen in Shanghai, and then different events, different design week within one city. Actually, that's why. Actually, because of they have different districts. So. The Global Design Network is really composed of institutions, no matter it's an education institution or design center or government bodies. So what we are facing the problem in the region now, I think William has said something about what are the challenges in Asia. And then actually, frankly speaking, we all learn from models from European countries, frankly speaking. because you are much more advanced in thinking and methodology. But for resources and market, there's a lot, as I said, a lot of times there's so many opportunities in China. Shenzhen has 20 million people. 20 million people just next to us. And then the government are putting like 100 million each year, in 100 million each year into industrial design promotion. More than 10 million US each year. So not including the others. They have another 400 million for creative industry. So, but actually, industrial design in Shenzhen is becoming very, very important because the Pearl River Delta it was the factory of the world. It has to be changed. That's why industrial design is so important. But maybe Shenzhen can learn a bit more from the model. But so I would say that in the past we are a bit selfish, frankly speaking. I must be honest. So in the past we discussed about design museum because we have the M+, the Ritz-Carlton project. We have a year or two we discussed design museum. And then later on, we think we have to rethink about our own competition, Design for Asia Award. So that's why we have a year to discuss design competition. So, but from now on, I would like to open up the themes of discussion for the next few years. So perhaps I will start from William, that's from the Asian perspective. What do you think we should discuss from this network? Because William has been with us for quite a number of years.
Hello. Yeah. Well, Asia is very diverse, and from my experience, I'm more familiar with Southeast Asia, and there is actually a very big movement in each country to look back at what actually they can take from the roots. Like, for example, in Indonesia, in the Institute of Technology in Bandung, they are actually relooking, or rather our associate Irfan is actually relooking at the entire curriculum of the design education to make it more relevant to Indonesia's needs and what the resources are. I think they're introducing a craft-based design education, and also the idea of, it's a worldwide movement, we're talking about slow design, slow cities. It's actually taking roots in Indonesia. And Indonesia, I believe, has, about 10 years back, it has about 21 million SMEs. Now, that's a tremendous number of resources, and it's really how to tap them. And that's why they're going back to the villages to try to see how each village can be more productive, and to try to incorporate them into the overall national economy. So there's a lot of lessons we can learn from this in a sense. Thailand has really the one village, one product. So I mean, and maybe it is applicable to China as well, because China has a lot of rural areas which needs to be activated to be really productive and fruitful, and to really contribute to the whole national economy. And of course, I think in terms of, Singapore, we look at Singapore as a leader in Southeast Asia. They got a lot to offer. And also, I think if you look at the progress of Singapore design, look at the award winners of the President's Award, lately, has been very, very creative, very, very innovative. So I think the government's policies are really taking fruit in that sense, where the government has supported Singapore designers, Singapore design organizations, and helping connect designers to businesses. But they kind of do it in their own way, because I think Singapore has very unique problems, and I'm sure we can learn from all these various Asian countries. There's a lot to tap from, especially when we talk about Southeast Asia being very spiritual, talking about old civilizations, all these things where we kind of connect the design process with spiritual life, with who we are. I think that is beginning to be more thought about nowadays and perhaps introduced into the design curriculum as the spirituality of man. I think that's what Asia is actually very strong at, but somehow we kind of lost it along the way in urbanization.
I might expand on that. I think it's interesting that we've just had a research paper done in Australia, and there's, I think, something like a 30% oversupply of graduates coming out of design school and coming into the industry. So it's a problem, but finding the balance of where these people go, in light of a lot of the conversation that's obviously going on, and it's certainly highlighted in the last 2 days, with all the speakers from all over the world, it's like now that we're at a point where design is beyond the form. We're looking for meaning. It was just discussed at lunch before as well. Designers with principles who aren't prepared to do something unless there's meaning. And so I guess if people aren't classically, if they're getting a design education but not moving into necessarily a design course, if they're moving into businesses, if they're moving into other areas where they can influence and help decision making and getting that deeper, whether it's a spiritual connectedness or a better purpose. But I think the challenge will be helping people realise that they can take their design education and apply it into a different part of life. I mean, clearly, sustainability is something that's on everybody's lips. It doesn't matter what part of the world you come from. And if we're saying, for instance, if Shenzhen is the factory of the world, then maybe with an oversupply of designers, they could use their energies towards not necessarily designing product, but perhaps looking at process and improving sustainability. So I think the challenge that we all have, and as associations and as educational institutions, is to redirect some people, not necessarily to expect life as a celebrity designer that's putting, pen to paper, but perhaps, thinking through that process. And it's probably the way we can lead that journey for these people to realise that there's actually greater potential in decision making than there is in just drawing.
I was part of the Design for Asia jury this year, and that's where I learned, of course, more about the region here. The entries come from different countries, and as you told us before, there are so different situations in Asia, and the challenges are quite different. I mean, in Europe, we have an aging population in most of the countries. If I heard in Shenzhen, the average is 27 years, I heard. I'm not really sure, but that it's a big difference. And so also designers and architects, of course, they have to care about other things. The cities here, they are quite dense, and you have to deal with space in another way. But at all, I think the processes are comparable. And what I think a strong design policy is really helpful. In Europe, we are focusing different subjects, and one of them is, of course, sustainability. We really have to care about this, and it's not that easy to bring it into the product world, but it's possible, and but it needs also the support from the politicians. I don't know if it's the same in Australia, or you think about it.
I think it is quite important when you talk about the policy, because I'm sorry to talk about China again, because in China, that's always the policy is the most important thing, because it's all other thing depends on the political view, political decision, so they can change very fast. But if you can convince the government to doing the right thing, using the right resources, the whole thing can be changed very quickly, very quickly. So from the design policy, and then they can have resources. Actually, I don't see any other country have put up so much resources in promoting design. First of all, they don't really have this kind of idea what design is. But first of all, as Decker's case, the cities actually just allocate empty factory for people to use a design cluster. But that is it's a very, very valuable asset. It's the land. Actually, Chinese government has really supported design by allocate a lot of land for creative clusters. Unbelievable. You know how much it cost in Shanghai now for the bridge exit? if you sell the land. So in the last 10 years, so if you just calculate how many pieces of land in the big city allocated for design cluster, actually the value is unbelievable. No country can compare, I can tell you. So the second thing is they really allocate cash each year to support design activities. So and then the third thing is, I think China is the largest market in the future, or even now, it in all sorts of commodities or consumer products or design service. But what is missing? So everything is moving so fast. So what is missing? So there's something perhaps within this global design network we can share or we can learn from each other. So we would like to see, frankly speaking, a lot of model can bring into the region we can share and help us, or we can learn from you, or we can even exchange talents. And then what most interesting this afternoon is the incubation models. That is what is missing in China too. In Hong Kong, that is we have incubation program, but still not as advanced as the one that Kaiser just told us. So that is something that is perhaps the network members have really contribute a lot to our members in this part of the world. But also, I would like to ask at both of you, if you, through this platform, what you expect from this platform?
From my perspective, I guess I mentioned it earlier, from Australia, it's really about trying to continuously be connected. I mean, obviously we're neighbours to Asia, and there's a lot of awareness at the political levels and at business levels. There's lots of Australian companies working here and have presence and so forth. So I guess it's continuing this dialogue and making sure that there is a connection rather than a disconnection. And then all the things you're talking about, the collaboration and sharing, that will follow through. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just that right now, and in fact it was in Vicente's presentation yesterday in the city of Barcelona, they've set up a network for all the city councils to be talking together, because what I took away from his talk was that most cities will be making the same mistakes that other cities have made before. And in his words, that's just stupid. And it's the same here. I think we should be genuinely sharing and learning from our experiences, and that's probably a big difference. That today technology is one thing, but again, being face to face and sharing those concepts, incubators and other things, is we can all learn from it. The more we share, and I suppose the co-collaboration and so forth is very co-creating. It's all very much, I think, where we are going. Perhaps what capitalism 3.0 might look like is a bit different.
I think this is really a place to share knowledge about design politics, about design strategies, and of course about design as a subject we have to deal with. But there is one thing I'm deeply convinced. Designers are really ambassadors in an intercultural perspective. And that's something I really like about creative industries at all. I think in a global perspective, they are really, these people and the things they are doing really helps to combine people and understanding of culture and different political backgrounds. And that's something I want to support, and that's why I also participate in such meetings.
Well, I think, sharing models, methodology, is in fact quite urgently wanted, because as you know, especially in my region, cities are fast disappearing or transforming into something pretty soulless. And I think there is a need to empower designers and associations and government to really understand how design actually plays a role in development. I'm afraid what will happen along the Mekong if we don't do anything about it. So we are at the verge of actually wiping out a lot of our intrinsic culture, replacing them with kind of like generic cities. So it has become actually quite an urgent task to really learn from each other. And a way to actually, among the less developed countries, how to empower designers to perhaps slow down or ideally to halt this mad development.
I always amazed that still in Scandinavian country they have small design business, but the quality is so good. So that is something perhaps we should really look into how it can be achieved, and because of the tradition, of course, and because of the customer demand also. So the thing is slow down is one of the issues. Quite interesting because in China it's really too fast. So I don't see much. Some of them is a bit too much, wasting a lot of energy and resources doing something that is not at the right quality. So anyway, because we don't have much time, I would like to open it to members like Peter. He has been with us for many years. Sure, he has something to talk about. What you expect to the new chapter of the Global Design Network?
Well, I think the thing that you hit upon about the fact that the cities, well, I mean, as we've seen all week, we've heard about cities growing and growing and growing and becoming these megapolises. And it's a horrible thought that they're going to all just be filled with Louis Vuitton superstores and all look the same and have no reflection on their roots and everything else. So I think this is a terrific problem that we're going to face worldwide, and it would be certainly a good subject for us to continue on. Maybe not next year, but every so often, because it's facing us immediately. And there are still some cities that haven't been built yet, like the whole Mekong. So, but that's coming. So I think it's urgent, and something that Richard Florida said yesterday in passing. He complimented my city, which was nice because he lives there. But the idea that the soul of these cities are their older buildings. And you can go inside and paint them white, but they're, that's all. For a long time when I lived there downtown, it was, we didn't look at them very positively. But now as I get older, I look at them and say, my God, those brownstones are wonderful and beautiful. I wish I had one. So I think that's an important subject. Also, we have, the forces of centrifugal forces that are driving people apart, and the politics of my country and other countries. I sometimes despair because it seems to be so unstoppable in some ways. But as you said, the designers are a special person, special people. They look at the world a certain way, and they're very inclusive, and they have to be, and they're very critical. They have to be critical. It's their job. But they also are, their job is also to strive for answers, strive for solutions, and improve things. And anything we can do to support that as an organization, as my fellow organizations, is to be lauded. And that's one of the great things about what you've done over the years, you and William, with this organization. So, power on.
Shelley?
Thank you. Thank you for Freeman promotion for Shenzhen industrial design and government policy. Thank you. Yes, Shenzhen industrial design is very stronger. And I tell you true data. And maybe there are more than 6,000 design company in Shenzhen, and most of maybe 4,000 in-house design institute, design house in a brand company, and another is a professional design service company. And we have 100,000 designers working in Shenzhen. So we have a huge market. It's a surprise. Maybe I would like to tell you two stories. The day before yesterday, as we had a dinner with superstar, U.S. Mr. Famous designers cream. Yeah. Maybe everybody know cream. Yes. He told me he want to set up his branch office in Shenzhen maybe next year. I asked him why. Because Shenzhen have a huge market, and CEDA very strong. And but he also tell me as I bought our exhibition last week. We opening is a very huge industrial design exhibition as fair. It's a exhibition is hosted by Shenzhen municipal government and supported by National Ministry of Industry Information Technology Committee, and organized by CEDA. Peter, participation. Thank you. This fair, as Karim said, it's a fair is very nice and very fantastic. Yes, are good. But he said maybe Shenzhen industrial design situation maybe as a low level. I don't see what expressing. But we have a huge market. Maybe it's a exchange and a potential opportunity between us. Yes, it's all. Yeah. Another story is a very famous designer from Italy, Mr. Giovanni. Yes. He also said he wants to set up a branch office in Shenzhen. Yeah, smart people. He's very nice and very funny. He also attended BUDW give us a speech. Yes. So I hope and I also expect. Maybe we can have a less cooperation in near future. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Shirley's just completed her first big expo, and it was a beautiful thing. I mean, it's so hard, as you know, to do this, and none of the hard work was apparent on the floor. It was sophisticated and smooth, and this is my 6th one in China, and I was blown away. It was really nice. So, congratulations. I think there's one point that occurred to me as we're doing these numbers about Shenzhen, but it's also a fine theme or subject matter for this forum, especially if you develop the public side of this forum a little bit more, which is, indeed, it could go down to the big forum. The subject that the China developing middle market is going to be so vast. It's already so vast. It's just going to burgeon, and I know I'm telling preaching to the converted, but this is an extremely important subject. And the poor designers in Europe and in America who are saying, my God, I'm going to lose my job because all those young Chinese designers are going to sell into America. It's going to go the other way. All the young American designers are going to be selling into China. So this is, I think, the subject of the next 10 years. So it could be a very juicy subject. So, anyway.
Thank you. Any other people would like to share their view? Yeah.
Hello, I'm Koen from Belgium. I'm an industrial designer representing VVO. I hear that that it would be interesting for you that European designer try to collaborate with companies in Shenzhen. Yeah, is that correct?
Well, actually, they usually come to Hong Kong first.
Yeah. So, I have some experience trying to do that.
Okay, please.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And my experience is that out of those maybe 10,000 companies or more, maybe most of them are not ready to work together with European designers, because what we do, our way of working, our methodology is incompatible with their business model. So companies are used to take low risk and go fast, and European designers are looking for another kind of added value. It's another business process. So I think if you can speed it up by maybe do a good matchmaking, because if a designer comes to Hong Kong and then to Shenzhen, he sees an enormous amount of companies. So it's very difficult to see the tree throughout the forest. Maybe GDN can do some good matchmaking and bring companies who are ready to work with a European designer in contact with a European designer.
Thank you.
I'm Deepa Kamath from Indie Design. We have a magazine, and we also have a large e-group that was started by our founder called Design India, which has about, I think, 2,000 active members. So it's a fairly large network. Now, what I think is there is a need to, I think India and China, I'm talking about mainland China, I'm not talking about Hong Kong. I think, listening to you, it sounds like we have similar problems when it comes to convincing businesses to adopt design. So I think there is a need. Actually, I think Dominic and I were just discussing it a little earlier, that perhaps there is a need to educate the businessman, to educate the SME on the benefits of using design. So, maybe they should be part of forums like this. Or, maybe you can have a special symposium where you bring designers and potential businessmen together, like your matchmaking forum that you were talking about.
If I could just jump in, that New Zealand thing that I showed you, the Better by Design program that they run there, it does exactly that. It really is bringing business people, goes one step further. It's actually trying to educate them, not just to understand design, but how to work with designers. Because as I said before, there's definitely a movement that's away from, it's going from styling to designing to thinking, and getting a lot of businesses perhaps in China, and I haven't had any personal dealings, but perhaps their maturity level in terms of what design can offer is not understood. So perhaps it is an education process on how you work together, and that's exactly what Better by Design as a program does. So it'd be interesting. Maybe I'll bring the New Zealanders along next year.
We should. I think I'm terribly sorry that we are really run out of time, because some people have to go back to the hotel and change and come back to the dinner. So I must. One last comment is I have to state one point clear. Global Design Network is to really exchange ideas, and for institution level, for business matching, Edmund will do that.
May I ask the members to just stay? We want to take a group photo. Yeah.
Okay. So So and then one important thing for the calendar is we have already list out the known one in the coming years. So when you plan your trip or you plan your event, please don't crash that much, because within this week there is a Shenzhen event, Shanghai event, Hong Kong event, Shenzhen event again, and then Singapore event. Too much within 1 week. So perhaps next time when you plan, please check our calendar. Please, thank you.